Hello everybody and welcome back to Slow Your Roll. I'm Cody, and today I plan to legitimately and honestly just tell you like a friend the reasons why I think you should know about DC20 if you don't already. This video is in no way sponsored or an advertisement. I mean, it's kind of an advertisement, but it's just because I'm evangelizing this thing. Like, I really like it. I'm not being paid in any way currently. Maybe in the future, I don't know. Anyway. Not being paid to make this video, okay? I am closely affiliated with DC20. I thankfully have been a small part of the team to help with the alpha review phases and everything else with that, spit my input in there. So I do have a lot of personal attachment, but I'm not sponsored. I'm not being paid to work on DC20 or anything like that right now. So anyway, giving you 5 reasons why I absolutely love the game, and I seriously think you should give it a shot. Oops, sorry, on my mic. Reason number 1, the action economy uses action points. This is something that several other TTRPGs do, so it's not, exclusive in this sense, but I do feel that it's a phenomenal way to exercise exactly the way that you would like your character to do some things during the action phase of combat. DC20 uses 4 action points. These action points are used for not only attacking, but of course moving, and even empowering your attacks and abilities with advantage or even extra damage, or many other enhancements to specific attacks and moves, but that's something we'll get into a later point. The biggest advantage of 4 action points, in my opinion, is actually leniency with the GM. If your players want to do something really creative and off the wall, and you're like, man, that should take a whole action or a bonus action if you're used to playing 5e, you can just say, okay, this should take this amount of action points to be able to accomplish this thing. And it makes it so much easier to adjudicate those off-the-wall ideas right there on the spot. The second thing that I think makes DC20 leagues above other games right now is the benefit of using stamina or stamina points for martial classes. Stamina points are going to be a lot more like the magic system that a lot of casters have, and they allow you to do what's called techniques, which is basically just spells, but for martials that make sense, using their weapons or abilities or things like that. Stamina points are huge. This means that you've got tons of versatility as a martial class. This allows martial classes to perform a variety of really advanced things and impressive things. It also brings about an immediate way to balance the game more or less between martials and casters. So there's not going to be some huge gap between the two of them where one's significantly stronger or better than the other, because they're able to do similar things, but in a light that fits their character or class fantasy. Stamina is something that you actually get back as you're playing, specifically during combat. Stamina isn't something that really you use out of combat. It's a combat-specific trait. But you get the stamina points back by doing something that is inherently part of the class fantasy of the class that you're playing. For an example, the Ranger gets stamina back when they hit the targets that are marked with their Hunter's Mark. And speaking of resources between martials and casters and their balance, number 3 on this list is the intuitiveness of using a mana pool instead of spell slots. And I know I'm comparing it directly to 5e. Other games use mana or a pool instead, but DC20 does use a mana pool. Honestly, for me in 5e, spell slots never really made that much sense. There is a lore reason behind it and stuff, but I don't know it that well. But it just doesn't make that much sense. It works and it's fine. But a pool of a usable resource is going to be so much more simple. It will also bring about impressive flexibility because players can then choose to maybe pump more mana into a spell to make it more impressive. Honestly, I also think it's a little bit more realistic and immersive anyway. A mana pool system can definitely feel more immersive as it kind of mimics the concept of having a finite source of magical energy. Moving on from there, I've mentioned stamina, I've mentioned mana, and I've mentioned the ways that you can invest more of these resources to do more impressive things. That brings us to number 4, maybe my favorite thing about DC20, to be honest. But that competes with the last one that I'm gonna keep kind of hidden till the end, so listen for that one. But at number 4, we're looking at the ability to customize your actions. Okay, so there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. One of the ways for martials is called maneuvers. This is basically like a cantrip for martials. It's something specific that they can tack onto their actions that they're already going to do, such as grappling or just simply swinging a sword. But you can invest more action points into adding maneuvers, giving yourself advantage, adding damage, maybe even adding a shove to your hits or a trip maneuver, anything like that. There's so many cool options in the book already. And this seriously is going to make it way more interesting than what I'm used to, which is 5e combat, of just like, okay, I guess I'm up close with this person already. I'm gonna swing my sword, roll a hit, roll damage. Okay, that's it for me. So much more interesting. That's just with action points. There's also techniques
Listen to sport.
that are available to martials that are, again, even more like spells instead of cantrips, but for martials. This would be if you're using a bow and you spend some stamina on a technique, you can actually launch a volley of arrows, making your normal single target hit an awesome AoE as you're just shelling out a bunch of arrows all at once. And that's just one example. But of course, this means that spellcasters are going to have the same thing. You can actually pump more mana points into spells to completely change your spell, bringing what would normally be a simple, ranged single target attack like a firebolt. You can pump more mana into this thing to hit multiple targets, or to leave a burning condition so that the enemy is continuously hurt, or of course pump all the mana into this baby and make it the classic fireball that we're used to from 5e, but a little less broken because the dungeon coach is careful about that stuff. By the way, in case you didn't already hear, I mentioned the Dungeon Coach. DC20 was made by the Dungeon Coach, and there will be tons of info and stuff in the description below too if you want to check out more there. I just need to make sure you know about the game to start with, so let's keep moving. At number 5, and technically the last documented point, but again, I've got one more at the end that's maybe actually my favorite. But anyway, number 5, you can choose your ancestry, which isn't that crazy. I mean, it makes sense. It's kind of like you can choose your race in D&D or whatever else, but this is different, okay? This is like you get all the ancestries that are laid out in front of you on a chart, and it's surprisingly not that intimidating to look at. But you've got a default for an elf, like the traits you get for being an elf, for a dwarf, for human, all that stuff. They're set up with default tables, makes it easy. But you also have the ability to pick and choose. You can make your own custom ancestry brought to you from your ancestors down many generations past or whatever, to make exactly the kind of character you want. You want to be an elf but take some of the hardy traits of a dwarf? You can do that. You want to be a human with their versatility but also have some of the interesting traits trickled in from a goblin? Or if you want to be an angelborn that can literally breathe fire, taking some traits from dragonborn, basically you get the idea. The ancestry system is an awesome way to further flesh out your character beyond the class and take some really interesting features that you wouldn't have just picking a normal race in 5e, for example. But here it is, the last point, the one that's actually the last one, not necessarily documented, but my favorite. The fact that everything about this system, especially in combat, is literally designed to encourage and hugely reward creative teamwork. For crying out loud, you're sitting around a table with all your friends playing a game, and in combat, a lot of times your best bet is to just do what works for you and not really do anything else. The help action isn't good enough. Listen, DC20 is designed to work as a team and be incredibly rewarded for it. But you can also be more of the lone wolf player if you really want to be and just kind of do your thing, and it will work. It'll totally work, and it'll still be good, even. But for those people like me that are just support roles, every MMO you play, you're some sort of support character, a healer, a tank, something. This game is meant for you, and you're gonna absolutely love it. There's a martial class that's basically like a battle bard called the Commander, and I've never played a more interesting and fun support character in any TTRPG I've ever played. So fun. So anyway, that's it. That's what I have for you. Those are the reasons why I seriously think you should just know about DC20 if you don't already. It's a phenomenal game. Thankfully, I've been a small part of it, and I will be forever grateful for that. But anyway, got links in the description below for all kinds of stuff. The Kickstarter is coming out, or is out already by the time you've watched this maybe. So feel free to check that out too. But that's it, you guys. That's all I got for you, okay? Thank you. Thanks for checking it all out. You know what I'm saying? Talk to you guys later. Bye.